shirt's off again, you've gotta deal with it. Title of the video: you actually should care about what other people think about you. This flies in the face of modern sensibilities, but after you finish watching this video, you will all agree with me and you will all realize that what people were saying was kinda wrong. To open things up, I'm going to play a clip of Mike Tyson doing an interview with some kid before he was gonna fight against Logan Paul or Jake Paul. I forget who it really was, but they were doing some kind of boxing match. Mike Tyson basically tells the kid that nothing matters, and the kid responds saying, wow, that's a very interesting point for her TikTok or whatever it was. Honestly, me saying it out loud doesn't do it justice. I'm gonna play the video right now.
So after such a successful career, what type of legacy would you like to leave behind when it's all said and done?
Well, I don't know. I don't believe in the word legacy. I just think that's another word for ego. Legacy doesn't mean nothing. That's just some word everybody grabbed onto. Someone said that word and everyone grabbed on the word, so now it's used every 5 seconds. It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just passing through. I'm going to die, and it's going to be over. Who cares about legacy after that? What a big ego. So I'm going to die. I want people to think that I'm this, I'm great. No, we're nothing. We're just dead. We're dust. We're absolutely nothing. Our legacy is nothing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is something that I have not heard before, someone say that as an answer. So thank you so much for giving me that kind of idea as well.
Can you really imagine somebody saying, I want my legacy to be this way when you're dead? Why do you want somebody to think? You think somebody really wants to think about you? What's the audacity? I think, I want people to think about me when I'm gone. Who the fuck cares about me when I'm gone? Well, my kids, maybe, or grandkids. Who the fuck cares?
And again, thank you so much for sharing that.
Now, admittedly, again, this is a really funny clip. But a lot of people in the aftermath of this video were saying that Mike is right and that he's actually just giving this kid a cold dose of reality. But no, he was not doing that. Mike Tyson is actually completely wrong. What he's espousing to this kid is known as nihilism. The idea that nothing we do matters because we're all just gonna die anyways, and but at the end of life's analysis, Mother Teresa, Saint Teresa, is gonna be the same thing as Adolf Hitler. That's genuinely not true. First of all, we won't be nothing after we die. Death isn't nothingness, it's actually the beginning of an entirely new life. And second, your legacy actually really does matter. The kind of effect you had on the world, what you did, what you're remembered as, what you leave behind, all of that actually does matter. And if it doesn't matter, the impact you had on the world, how you're remembered, the legacy you leave, if that doesn't matter, then nothing matters. Which I assume is probably actually Mike Tyson's actual philosophical philosophy. That was kind of redundant, philosophical philosophy, you know what I mean. Philosophical position is probably a better way to put it. It's probably what I actually meant. It is, of course, funny in this instance. Honestly, if I was thinking of some kind of funny skit if someone came up to me with the idea that someone's just gonna talk to this kid about this nihilistic philosophy and the kid's gonna be like, that's very interesting. I probably would have thought that was a genius skit and I would have greenlighted it right away. But no, it's a completely incorrect philosophy. It is absolutely not something we should be applauding to Mike. This nihilistic philosophy really is not how you should be living your life. Granted, you shouldn't be very egotistical either. You shouldn't be flaunting and trying to make a show of yourself all the time. You shouldn't be obsessively concerned about how people think about you. But caring about your legacy, caring about how you're remembered, that's not only the right way to live, but that's the only way you can achieve true greatness. Because forging a legacy is one of the primary human drives. All great men wanted their names etched in history after they died. There's some exceptions that could be imagined, of course, but this is generally true. They don't just live for themselves, they live for the people who come after them as well. Caring about what other people think doesn't have to inspire anxiety or self-deprecation. It can also inspire inspiration to be greater for those who will come after you. This is actually why people leave inheritances for their children. Historically, this was really the norm. It's kind of changed now, or at least it's to a less degree now. But historically, this was definitely the norm. People left inheritances not just for their kids, but for their grandkids, for some of their cousins even. For generations of children, they wanted the money to be flowing through. The idea is, even when they aren't around, they would still be providing for their family. And that's actually an alpha move. We talk about alpha males or whatever. That's actually an alpha move, being able to provide and protect your family even when you're not there. That's pretty hardcore. That's the heart of this legacy mindset that I'm trying to espouse right now. You plant trees whose shade you will never sit under. And that mindset is utterly incompatible with the nothing matters nihilism. Even Nietzsche, who people often, somewhat rightly and somewhat wrongly, attribute to nihilism, wrestled with this proposition and ended up kind of agreeing with me, kind of not agreeing with me. It's a bit complicated. Nietzsche himself is a bit of an enigmatic figure. It's hard to really pinpoint what he actually thinks. Anyways, he positively affirmed that life is meaningless. But afterwards he questioned, is life also then worthless? The answer was, interestingly, no, life isn't worthless. Just because life is meaningless doesn't mean that it isn't worth living. He proposed a thought experiment. I think you probably have heard it to some degree articulated. It's called the eternal recurrence. It's the idea that you should live your life as if it were going to repeat in perpetuity for eternity. It's supposed to make you ask the question of, if you could live this life forever, would this be a kind of life that you would want to live? Are you living the kind of life that would be fulfilling if it were to be repeated in perpetuity? If at the end of your life, you could ask yourself, maybe there's some kind of celestial being that was asking you like, hey, would you choose to live this life again? And experience all the same experiences, you wouldn't like know what's coming up or anything like that. You'd experience everything over again. Would you live it again? You'd have to like check that box and be like, yes, I will live this again. This is a powerful idea. It shows that Nietzsche wasn't exactly the straightforward nihilist that we would think of in the modern day. Just because there wasn't some kind of transcendent meaning to life doesn't mean that it isn't worth living still. A person who thinks that every moment of his life has eternal significance can't be a true straightforward nihilist to me. That's why I have a trouble saying that Nietzsche is just a nihilist. He's telling people to live in the here and now, to make every moment count. But there is still a problem with this, right? That idea detached from some kind of eternal framework, sorry, not eternal framework, but greater framework, is really a justification for immediate pleasure, because it orients the focus entirely within yourself. If you're only focused on whether you would want to live your life over and over again, then what's the point of stuff like having children? Why build something that you wouldn't be around to see the end result of? Why suffer for a future you will never experience? Children are painful, annoying, loud, they keep you up at night, they're expensive, they can break your heart. And if they don't break your heart, you won't see the end result of them, like I said before. The only reason to have them is if you have such a heart that you care about the continuance of humanity and the betterment of humanity and the perpetuation of your gene pool. But if life is just eternally recurring, then none of that really matters. If my life is only about whether I personally would like to recur it forever, then having children, leaving a legacy, that stuff doesn't matter at all. Again, you'll never see it unfold. But people want to have kids because they have a heart that wants to see the continuance of the world. They want to make the world a better place by contributing to something that will last after their death. But if you don't believe that a future beyond your own existence really matters, then that instinct is sort of being washed away. And this worldview is actually manifested in a lot of people today. You'll notice it passively if you think hard, if you think about it enough times and just like pay attention enough. It's not something people will consciously say, but it's sort of an idea people have absorbed via osmosis, just living in this social milieu. It's just part of the culture we live in, this sort of zeitgeist we live in. Admittedly, Nietzsche often spoke against this shallow, self-pleasing existence, but the philosophy he espouses will eventually lead to that, so it's sort of moot to really mention that. But yeah, struggling and overcoming insurmountable obstacles, he believed, and correctly observed, honestly, that these sort of struggles that you go through have some kind of satisfaction of which the lazy person will know nothing of. And the reason this is the case is actually very biblical. You know, suffering isn't just a part of life, it's like intrinsically woven within masculinity. When Adam ate the fruit, God cursed man with toil of labor, which is, another code for suffering. Again, it's through this that suffering became intrinsically woven within masculinity. But, of course, the story doesn't end there. We know that God ultimately works everything for the greatest good possible. So our suffering isn't meaningless, it's aimed at a much greater purpose. There's a martial art called judo wherein you use the strength of your opponent and literally flip it on its head. The amount of strength that your opponent uses against you is being flipped against them, only with this sort of celestial metaphor I'm going to tie this to, it's like multiplied by 10. God uses the evil of sin and flips it on its head to create goods that are 10 times greater than it. The most obvious example of this is the fall and the resurrection. Because of the fall, we have Jesus sent down to us. And then his death, burial, and resurrection is the greatest thing that could conceivably happen to us. He was able to create the greatest good out of such a horrendous, horrid evil. In the same way for us in our life, it is when we take sin, we take the evil of the world, the struggles that we go through, and flip it on its head in a sort of spiritual judo. You take your suffering and make it a reason to be an even greater man than you otherwise would have been without that suffering. You become a greater man through suffering, not in spite of the suffering, but in part because of the suffering. That's how you forge a legacy, not from running away from pain, not by numbing yourself or telling yourself that nothing really matters anyways, but it's by leaning into it, owning it, and dominating it, and letting it transform you for the better. Because let's just be honest, suffering is inevitable. And if suffering is inevitable, let's make productive use of it. Let's build something and let it echo into actual eternity, not just this metaphysical sort of hypothetical eternity that Nietzsche talked about. So yeah, this video took a while to write. Hope you guys enjoyed. I thought it was pretty cool. But like, comment, subscribe, buy my book, consider my fitness coaching, and yeah, I will see you guys next time. Oh yeah, update actually. I'm thinking about joining a bodybuilding competition in October. I think I've mentioned this a few times, but like I think I might just register. I haven't actually done that yet. And if I do, then hopefully I'll be able to win. But yeah, hopefully these muscles are helpful. I think they've gotten quite a bit bigger since my last bodybuilding show. If you guys, longtime subscribers, know that I did a bodybuilding show back in 2023, I think, or 2022. I think it was 2022. So it's been like 3 years since I've done it. Been through a lot with the car accident and whatnot. Probably slowed down my progress quite a bit, but I think I've got a better physique now than I had before. So anyways, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, book, coaching, you know the deal. All right, peace, bye.